All right, so hello and welcome to another talk as part of the Project Homeworld series. I'm going to introduce our guest here in a second, but just wanted to take a few minutes to talk about Project Homeworld, which is the kind of the context for all of these talks that we're doing this semester. Project Homeworld is an opportunity for students to come up with real world projects to address some community problem and make an impact in their communities or even globally during this time of the pandemic. And so the challenge is being sponsored by the West Houston Institute and Ideas Studies Democracy. He's making no pretense of actually trying to win a majority of voters. What he's trying to do. There we go. And so West Houston Institute and Ideas Academy are we are located physically when we're in the building on the Alief campus out on the west side of Houston. But we are really through this time offering our programs and activities to students across the Houston Community College system. And so what we are looking to do is really give students an opportunity to develop their creativity, their problem-solving skills, their collaboration towards solving real-world problems. And so we believe that this will help them to develop the mindsets and skill sets that will really help them to succeed in today's society. And so this is a way, sort of kind of our first take on this, on opening it up to all of HCC students. And so we're learning a lot and really appreciative of those of you that have been participating in these talks and the other activities that we've been doing. And so every year when we do these challenges, Ideas Academy will put forth a challenge question. And in the past, those have been very specific around food security and civic engagement around the census, plastic waste last year. This year, with everything going on, it seemed like we needed to open it up more broadly to allow students to respond to these current times in a way that they felt passionate about. And so the question that we asked this year is, how can we create a sustainable future here on planet Earth that is more responsible, more livable, and more equitable for all? For students, or really anyone that's interested in learning more about how to get involved in coming up with your own project to address this challenge, you can visit the Project Homeworld website at the address listed here, hccs.edu/homeworld. And I can tell you today, you will learn about a group of people and a business with a mission to do just that. And so I'm really excited to have Charlotte on with us today to talk to you about what Re3D is doing as a company, and then just from you to hear from her personally. Charlotte, like everybody at Re3D, has a cool job title. She's the ambassador for Re3D, and what that means is that if you like your first encounter of Re3D is more than likely, to be meeting with Charlotte and hearing about it. And that certainly was true in our case. We actually have one of the printers that you'll hear about today in our space at Ideas Studio. Charlotte, we'll talk about how Re3D is not just a 3D printing company, but they're really a social enterprise. And so how they engage their own passion towards solving the world's problems with also the needs of business. Charlotte also has been the person at Re3D who's been responsible for organizing their business's response to the COVID-19 crisis. And so if you were on with us on Tuesday, you got to hear a part of that story. And it's been an opportunity for me and for Israel here to really get to know her and become friends with her. And as we've created this kind of community around people responding to this. And so I'm very grateful for that. And look forward, like the rest of you, to hearing what she has to say about Re3D and what they're doing.
Thank you so much, Jordan. That was a really lovely introduction. I'm really happy I get to know you guys. So I'm going to share my screen.
Yep.
There we go. Okay, so so our talk today is 3D printing for good. And like Jordan said, I'm the ambassador for Re3D. We are a company here in the Houston area. We're down by NASA. And I'm just going to go through, oh, maybe I'm going to go through it if I can. Ooh, there we go, back up. Okay, so a quick overview of who we are, and then we're going to get into some definitions. So Re3D is a social enterprise that's focused on decimating the cost and scale barriers to 3D printing to allow anyone, anywhere, anytime to be the problem solvers for their community. And before we get too far into what we do, I wanna give you a roadmap of what we're going to do today. We're going to talk about what a social enterprise is, and then we're going to talk about how Re3D and some other groups that I've decided to show you serve our community. And then I'm going to give you some kind of candid advice about how to get started, how you can become a person who has a social enterprise working towards helping solve the world's problems. So let's go. So a social enterprise is kind of a mixture between a traditional nonprofit organization. You see over here, Volunteers for the Houston Food Bank, and a traditional business, which is focused on selling a product or service for money. So the Social Enterprise Alliance defines the social enterprise as an organization that addresses a basic unmet need or solve a social or environmental problem through a market-driven approach. And what that basically means is that you put your social mission on the same level as your revenue goals. So that as you progress and grow as a company, your social mission progresses and grows along with it. And one does not necessarily negate the other. So as the COVID-19 pandemic has made, economic problems, economic challenges in our society, Re3D and other organizations like ours still put our social mission at the forefront, regardless of the fact that our revenue may be down and we haven't dropped it because of lack of revenue. Because it's very easy for a traditional business to immediately drop any sort of initiatives that don't make money when you're struggling, right? But a social enterprise wouldn't do that. There's a way to legally designate your company as a social enterprise. It's called a B Corp or a benefit corporation. And those are organizations that put that social enterprise, encode that social enterprise mission into their bylaws as a company. And a way that a company can do this and kind of hold themselves accountable is by connecting to the bcorporations.net and having their impact be rated by an outside organization. Some companies that you know very well are B Corps, and you probably understand why. Patagonia is out there selling clothes, but they're also using their revenue to fund environmental work to help preserve the environment. Ben & Jerry's is out there selling delicious ice cream, but at the same time, they're focused on fair trade and social equality. And so you'll see Ben & Jerry's out there fighting for racial equality and economic equality alongside with selling their ice cream. I put a screen cap of Tom's, the shoe company here. That in addition to selling their shoes and their glasses, they are focused on clean water initiatives for the whole world. So those are the kind of companies that are B Corps. And Re3D is not technically a B Corp. We haven't signed the paperwork, but we functionally work as a B Corp. Globally, B Corps can tie into this huge mission that's part of the United Nations 2030 agenda. Basically, in 2015, all of the United Nations countries signed on to the Agenda 2030, which included these 17 different sustainable development goals to push globally all of us to a more equitable society and a sustainable society. The goals cover a wide range of topics from poverty, water, education, healthcare, but they also include more tech-focused initiatives like innovation and sustainable cities and that sort of thing. And Re3D hones in our focus on number 9, industry, innovation, and infrastructure, and also number 12, responsible consumption and production. And as you think about yourself and your ideas for how you might have a social enterprise, you can look to these sustainable development goals as targets for potential enterprise you might form. And I can share links after I'm done gabbing at you forever. I've saved them all, so I know that people are going to be like, where do we find this information? And I promise I will share it. So that's, kind of a global framework, a local framework to the global framework, and how these all kind of tie together. So how does Re3D fit into this? So like I said, we are a social enterprise, and we're focused on 3D printing, and we make the Gigabot, which is a large format industrial 3D printer. It was the world's first affordable one. Thankfully, now there are more than just us in this kind of section of the market trying to make 3D printers that can print real functional objects that can help improve lives. The reason that our Gigabot, this is the smallest version we make, the reason it is the size of, which is a 2-foot cube, is because we wanted people to be able to 3D print their own toilets and solve their own sanitation needs wherever they were. So that was the initial idea behind the idea of Gigabot, and it still is the focus of our mission. As a company, we started off in 2013 with $40,000 in grant funding from a startup accelerator called Startup Chile. And we have survived the 3 hurricanes that hit Puerto Rico and Houston, Harvey, Irma, and Maria in 2017, and progressed through with the help of lots of great partners and funders to over $8 million in revenue and $4.5 million in grants and awards. We have offices in Austin, Houston, and Puerto Rico, and some of our colleagues don't even work there. We're a big distributed team. And as you can see, there's a lot of ladies that work on our team, where we are a certified women-owned small business, which is very abnormal in a manufacturer. And that is what we are. We build our printers here in Houston. Our factory is in the Clear Lake area, and almost 90% of the machine parts are made in our factory. There's very few parts that we buy off the shelf and put on it. Everything is made by us, and we have people from all over the world who own our printers. They're in 50 different countries, and they're used by industries as far-ranging as manufacturing, design, engineering, education, art, architecture, and so on and so on and so on. So our social mission is the core of who we are. I described a social enterprise earlier, and that is exactly what we are. When our founders were at NASA, they were working with Engineers Without Borders, which is a volunteer organization that goes out and solves engineering challenges all over the world. And there were 3 common threads to what they saw were the issues that they were trying to solve. One was that there were huge amounts of unemployment. The second was that people had no access to manufacturing. And the third was that there was huge amounts of plastic trash everywhere. So our founders kind of came up with this idea that, what if a 3D printer could help tackle all of those things, not just provide a way for people to manufacture something, but also tackle that plastic trash problem. In addition to being a company focused on plastic waste, we also give away 1 Gigabot for every 100 that we deliver. So the way it works is we sell 100 bots, and then we hold what's called the Gigaprize competition. And we put it out there for anyone in the world to submit kind of a 3-minute video pitch about what they would use a Gigabot for to help their communities. And then we have a panel of judges vote on it, and then these are some of the winners who have won it in the past. Magic Wheelchair in Portland does fantastic work creating whimsical wheelchair shells to go on kids' wheelchairs for costumes and that sort of thing. The Clinton Foundation in Nigeria has now, and included in it, has now built Nigeria's first ever makerspace to help encourage Nigeria's budding engineering and manufacturing scene. The Good Work Studio is also a Houston-based company, but they really work more internationally. Their name now is Every Shelter, and they use their Gigabot to create modular flooring for refugee centers. And now they also use it to create frameworks so that people can use bamboo and local materials to build shelters at refugee sites. 3D Molpen Colombia used their gigabots to make prosthetic limbs for people in Colombia. I don't know if any of you have a prosthetic limb, but it's prohibitively expensive to get one, especially a customized one that fits you correctly. And so 3D Molp wanted to be able to provide more affordable prosthetic limbs to their colleagues in Colombia, and that's what they used their gigabot for. Tuna Panda is in the Kibera slum in Kenya, and they use their gigabot to teach resiliency skills and 21st century technology skills to people to help lift them out of poverty and provide jobs. So back on the topic of recycling, so this is a view of the waste outside of our office in Puerto Rico. So landfills in Puerto Rico and in many other places are overflowing. And for Puerto Rico specifically, it's estimated that in between 2 and 4 years, the landfills will be completely at capacity. And annually, we throw out $80 to $120 billion worth of plastic waste, and only less than 10% of that ever gets recycled. But where some see waste, we see opportunity. We see the ability to transform that waste into new and useful objects. And the way this works is we take trash and we granulate it up, and we then put it in, grind it into particles that are about 3 millimeters in diameter or smaller. And it doesn't have to be turned into a perfectly formed pellet. It can be just stay in that ground up size. And then we dry those waste plastics out and put them through our printer, and we can use them to create really cool things. Like you see here are some coffee picker baskets that we made for a coffee farm in Puerto Rico. And the baskets are ergonomic, so they kind of curve around the picker's body so that they're more comfortable and they can pick faster and without hurting their back. So this is the printer that does that. This is Gigabot X. It, in addition to printing with pellets or plastic waste, can print up to 17 times faster than a standard filament-based 3D printer. And it uses an internal compression screw to really squeeze that plastic as it melts and flows through the printer, and then prints like a traditional like filament-based 3D printer on the other end with layer by layer plastic building up until the 3D model that you've decided to print is complete. One of the coolest projects that we've worked on to date is that over the summer, we partnered with the Austin Habitat for Humanity Restore, and we took reclaimed wood from the Habitat for Humanity construction sites that was off-size, that couldn't be used again for a project, and paired it with 100% recycled PET, the same stuff that water bottles are made of, and 3D printed both furniture and art pieces to put on display for a silent auction in the Restore, and kind of validated this theory that if you really can use plastic waste to make new things, that people will buy it. And actually some of the stuff sold for over $100 in the store, which is pretty impressive considering that there was very little visitorship of the store because of the pandemic. We are an open source company. So this is another way that we serve our community. And the reason we're open source is because we believe in pushing this technology forward. And the only way to do that is by collaborating with all of the innovators in the field. Open source to us means that our hardware is open source, which is very rare, and our software is open source. We do not take our IP and protect it with a patent. Instead, we spend that money that we would have spent on patent lawyers and all of that stuff on innovating and serving our community. So you can contact us if you really want to. You can contact us, and we can share all of the design files for one of our printers, and you can make it yourself if you really want to. But the other cool part about it is that we share all of our research. We don't hide it. We don't keep it inside. You can go on our website, on our forum, and find out everything about the development of Gigabot X, from how we figured out how to grind up stuff to what the right size would be to how we have modified the extruder over time. All of that information is open and available to you so that you guys, the next generation of change makers, can take that to the next level and improve this technology and really make it the next version of what it's going to be. If you were in the meeting on Tuesday, you'll know that we were part of the Houston Maker community COVID-19 response. We helped in Houston with printing face shields and designing face shields for a local hospital. We also designed and prototyped other objects, including masks like this mask, which won an honorable mention in the America Makes Fit to Face mask challenge. It's a flexible face mask that can be resized to fit any face that you want, so it can be comfortable and also flexible and breathable at the same time. And it's pictured right here on a police officer who tried it on to validate it for us. He's also my neighbor, but and then we have another program called program called PPE for the PPE for the people. And that program we started in collaboration with Impact Hub Houston, which is a local nonprofit, and it distributes free PPE to businesses and organizations in minority and underserved areas of the city to help provide them with PPE as they open up. And this is a picture of some of the recipients. You may have visited their businesses or their food banks around the city. You can see we do like splash guards to protect like checkout counters and face shields, and we also have hands-free door pulls and something else that I can't remember at this point. Oh, ear savers, so that you can pull the mask off your ears and not have any ear points. And that's just another way that we as a company serve our community and keep our focus on the problem solvers as opposed to exclusively on revenue focused enterprises. We also, just like this meeting right now, do a lot of engagement in our community. Here are some pictures of some of the things that we did before everyone was wearing masks all the time. We had lots of visitors come into our factory. We have an open factory concept, so anyone normally can come in and visit the factory at any time and get a tour. You can walk in off the street, and we actually have our tours listed on TripAdvisor, so you can sign up on TripAdvisor for a tour, and we pair that with one of our rockets. You can take home a rocket with the tour, and then we have everyone from young school children to senior citizens come in and visit. And we do classes and workshops for all sorts of groups, as well as go out and visit the community and try and share this technology with people so that more and more can understand it and maybe make use of it, because it truly changes the way you think about manufacturing. You think about the objects in your home, you think about the plastic in your life when you have the ability to manipulate that yourself. And we really think that engaging with the community and educating the next generation of change makers is really the way that we move this technology to the forefront and make it useful for everyone. So I wanted to, speaking of community, I wanted to share some things that are not us, because I think we are not the only innovators in this space who are focused on a social enterprise as it applies to 3D printing. So this is just one example, and I'm going to show you a few more. So at the University of Wisconsin-Madison, what they do is they use their 3D printers to create drill guides for surgeons. So they take a 3D scan of a person's bones and then create a very specific guide that can go onto the bones during surgery to make sure that the drills are angled precisely correctly for the screws that need to go to the bones together and that sort of stuff. And that's just one great use of 3D printing for humanity. Another one is a little bit closer to home over at the Texas A&M Veterinary Hospital. This cute little puppy, they took a 3D scan of him and made a cast of his body. And they used that cast to make it so that the puppy can go through the CT scanning machine comfortably. And so normally what they have to do is like completely sedate the animals and strap them down. but that, isn't good for being able to monitor organ function and that sort of stuff in an active, in an active awake situation. So they made these scans so they can comfortably place the dogs or animals in a comfortable position and put them through the scans, and then they save the casts and use them again when the dog is better so that they can verify that the treatment works. The other cool thing about it is they figured out that the low-level radiation doesn't penetrate, the high-level radiation doesn't penetrate the PLA barrier of the cast. And so they can put the low-level radiation in and target specifically where they want it to go without causing unnecessary damage to other organs, which is a really cool thing they're doing. Another great project, which we have been involved in a little bit, is this project to save the monuments in the ancient sites in Syria from being, destroyed during their ongoing conflict. There is a great group called New Palmyra that creates 3D from both photographs and 3D scans. They create models of these monuments so that eventually, when the 3D printing technology catches up on the construction side, they can potentially recreate these out of natural materials and make them anew, with an eye towards historic preservation. And it's an amazing site. And they're not just focused on Syria. But some of these sites did get destroyed, but they've been thankfully preserved digitally for a future where there's less war and less conflict. And then a little bit closer to home and then a little bit further away, I wanted to show you this great video by our friends at WASP. They're a 3D printing company out of Italy, and they make a 3D printer that prints houses using hyperlocal materials. You literally use the materials that are on site at your construction site as part of the material for your concrete or mud mixture. I'm going to show you this video real quick. That music is such a mood. I can't do it so much. So the cool thing about WASP is they know that traditional building materials are still used in most of the world. Mud and plaster are still used to make houses, and they wanted to make it be easier and more affordable for people to do that. So they have this whole initiative with their Brain 3D printer. A little bit further from Terra, the AI Space Factory won a competition put on by NASA to design the habitats from the Mars mission, eventual Mars Mars base. And their idea is very similar to what WASP is, which is to use the native materials, because it's prohibitively expensive to transport large amounts of materials into space. I can't remember the exact number, but it's it's like $10,000 per pound to send something up into space. So AI Space Factory came up with this 3D printing design that would use the basalt rock on Mars as part of the material to print the habitats. And the basalt rock itself is radioactivity resistant, so it would potentially help provide a habitat that was safe from radioactive material from Mars. So that's really pretty badass. Okay, so cool people, us, but all of this isn't important except for what you are going to do, with your ideas. So here's some basic information on how to get started as a social enterprise. the first thing you need to do is find your community. You might have an idea or you might not have an idea, but you know that this is how you want to like spend your life. So you need someone to inspire you. You need to meet with people who share the same kind of ideas as you, and you need to connect with potential partners. So some of the great groups out here are in Houston. You know, I said that we partnered with Impact Hub Houston to come up with PPE for the people, but Impact Hub is a resource for you too. They put on programming, and a lot of it is free and virtual right now, which talks about social enterprises, talks about how to get started. And they have this great conference coming up in November 11th, mid-November, something like that, called THIS, which is the Houston Innovation and Impact something. Anyway, it's called THIS. I'll post a link in a bit. But you know, a great way to get started and meet people in that community if you're interested in becoming a social enterprise. More broadly, there's another similar kind of community called Global Shapers. And Global Shapers is similar to Impact Hub. They have hubs in different cities, which connect and provide motivation for each other, because making a social enterprise that works is hard and difficult. And being able to be re-inspired by your colleagues who are working on maybe not necessarily the same thing, but some sort of solution for the earth, and is the only way to keep motivated when times get tough. And then if you like the whole UN Sustainable Development Goals, they have a sister kind of organization called GEN, G-E-N, and they have a global entrepreneurship network of people all over the world who are working to solve the world problems. You can join that hub, and they have a global entrepreneurship week coming up in November. You can put yourself on their platform, make a profile, and attend their events. Most of them are free. Okay, beyond finding your people, you then need to identify your problem and define the solution. So the first thing you need to do when you have an idea of a problem that you want to solve is talk to the stakeholders, talk to the people who that problem the solution would serve. Right here, this little thing is a picture of what's called the play pump. It was this idea that was actually implemented in Africa to use children playing on a merry-go-round type structure to pump water out of wells and make it so that mothers and women who were carrying buckets from their houses to fill up the water would not have to pump it manually every time. Great idea, right? It was implemented all over the place, and it functionally works, and it doesn't use electricity, which is fantastic. But nobody talked to the people who were actually going to use the pumps, and the reality is that women go to the pumps in the morning before their children are awake, before the children are with them to get water, and it's when they socialize, it's when they have time to talk, and they wear these long dresses, and so playing on a merry-go-round in a long dress is not necessarily one of the things they want to do while they're trying to pump their water. So they have these pumps all over Africa that aren't being used because the children are never there when the women are pumping the water. And it became a program that was kind of a failure for lack of talking to your stakeholders. So be really humble when you have a solution, because the people who it affects will probably have an idea of what will work and what won't, and being able to listen to them is going to get you so much closer to your solution. Next, after you've come up with an idea, you need to research gaps in existing solutions. So maybe you have an idea, but maybe somebody else has already done something similar, and you want to, find where your unique niche is. Like, for instance, Re3D knew that there were desktop 3D printers out there that could print small objects, and huge industrial 3D printers that could print big things like we wanted to, but those industrial printers were $100,000. So that, where we saw there was a gap was that, they needed to have an industrial 3D printer that was not going to cost, $100,000 to make. And so that's how we focused our market. And we were the first ones in it, but thankfully it's grown, and there's many more people in there pushing and innovating in this world. Prototype your solution is the next step. So the prototyping process is very circular. You don't just make something and stop. You make something, come up with an idea, you get input from your employees, your staff, your board members, anybody who's a stakeholder in this process. You change it, you implement it again, and you go around in circle until you have a minimum viable product, a product that you could release to the general public that is functional with the basic parameters that you set. And that's basically how the prototyping process works. And it's completely okay if your prototype is ugly or non-functional, but having something physical in your hand, physically 3D, would be able to would make it easier for more people to buy in, because everything's digital right now, but it's hard to really grasp things that are digital. Physical things, we're very tactile people, and physical things go a long way. So next, after you've got your prototype, you've got your business, you know where your niche is, you know what your solution is, you need some money, right? You need to be able to fund this project that you want to work on. So there are many different ways to fund your project. Most groups start out by bootstrapping or self-funding their projects, and some people keep doing it forever, and kind of like us, and some people go on into VC funding. And there's no right way to do it. You just need to find the way that works best for your industry and what you're comfortable with. But there are things that can help you along the way. There are prizes out there, especially for social enterprises. There are prizes out there that are sponsored by big organizations that want your ideas, want you to help solve these challenges in the world. You can get some really great funding to work this out. The Lone Star Prize is currently in a review phase, and it's a $10 million prize for someone who's going to solve a challenge for citizens in Texas. So it's very locally focused. The Racial Equity Prize is a $90 million prize, and that's open for ideas right now for how to solve racial equity issues across the world. And all of these ideas are open for anyone. It could be students, it could be businesses, it could be nonprofits. And as if your idea is good and worth developing, which I'm sure it is, don't be afraid to go after that money that's out there, because there's plenty of it out there. Another way to get in on the ground is that is you can do competitions. There's lots of pitch competitions out there, and a lot of them are virtual now, which is great because you don't have to spend the money to travel to those places. And you can just pitch, like locally here in Houston, the ION, which is a group that we have a relationship with, does a startup demo day pitch competition, and they've been progressing throughout. I think they started probably sometime in May, from May to now, and they're getting to their finals. So they have this round robin pitch competition where they get more and more winners and weed everybody out, so they're almost at their finals. And you can just look that up and attend it for free and see what kind of other interesting ventures are out there. Awesome group. And the ION also has an accelerator program, and accelerators are basically groups that think you have a great idea and want to help you get that started and get your network of people going. So there are accelerators for early stage startups, meaning just ideas, and there are accelerators for further along groups, and they cover a wide range of topics, a lot in tech and healthcare. But out there, the ION actually just announced yesterday, 2 days ago, that they are opening up a cohort 3 application for sustainability startups. So if you have a sustainability program or idea that you want to get help with and be connected to a network of mentors who can help you get your business going, apply. Great options out there. Another thing that we do, and not everybody does this, but there are government programs out there to enhance research. And we participate in the Small Business Innovation Research Program, and we got funding to work on Gigabot X to make that trash printer a reality from the National Science Foundation through this program. And the government is a big fan of innovation too. You just have to deal with lots and lots of paperwork, but that's okay. if it's worth it, because you can fund your entire business for an entire year from a government program. In addition to those, there are VC funding, which is a very traditional way for a startup to get funded, and it's not as common for there to be VC funding for social enterprises, but they're out there. Better Ventures, Impact Engine are just some of the examples of VC groups that are willing to put money into social enterprises and are interested in hearing from you and learning about your company and maybe becoming a partner in the progress. All of these are options for how to get started. Okay, and then once you've got your product and your network and your money, deliver, serve, and grow. I am sure that you guys have some amazing ideas for problems that you want to solve, and I wish you all the best with all of that work. Questions? I know there are some in the chat, so I think I can go through, but if there are any more, feel free to shout them out.
Yeah, it looks like we have one. The perpetual question: internships at Re3D, student opportunities.
I'm gonna flash my thank you screen to like give credit to all of our cool programs and my email address and our social media handle at Re3D Printing, and then I'm gonna stop sharing so that I can like copy and paste some links for you guys. So give me 1 second.
Cool. And then you've got stuff posted on the website too, right? Like on the Re3D website.
Yeah, absolutely. So our careers page is re3d.org/careers. And we have internships posted there. And we are a 3D printing company, so we do need people who have 3D printing experience. I mean, that's kind of the very, very bare minimum of our requirement for interns. So if you don't have 3D printing experience, I can tell you there's a really great makerspace at the West Houston Institute. It's called the Idea Studio, and they are very happy to help you learn about 3D printing and get your skills in line so that you can come intern with us. So it's quite plus. Other questions? What else do we have over here?
Let's see.
What is bootstrapping? Did I answer that question? Bootstrapping is the same as self-funding. It means that you're not taking venture capitalist funding for your enterprise. The owners own it wholly, and it might be one owner, it might be a group of owners in the case of Re3D, and you're not taking VC funding where there's basically people that you owe revenue targets to basically recoup what they put into your business. And Re3D is one of those businesses that is bootstrapped, meaning that we don't take VC funding, and not that we wouldn't, we just haven't found a partner that fits our model very well. But that's, it's just a fun way to say that you're self-funding your business. Yeah. Other questions? What would be your advice when facing rejection or going through hardships when you are first starting out with your project? My biggest advice is to, believe in yourself and understand that what you think is important is not always what other people are going to think is important. Re3D competes often in many different competitions, and we win 1 out of 10 of them. We have to deal with rejection all the time, and we have to understand that humans are humans, and humans have different priorities than we do. And if you think your idea is worth exploring, then do it. Don't let anybody else get in your way, and just be present and keep pushing for it. How do we search for these competitions / sources of funding? Great idea. So Houston Exponential is, see, I knew I was going to need to drop links. Houston Exponential is a great ecosystem collator, and they have connections to all of the accelerators in the Houston scene, and also will have a list where they share events and also funding opportunities. But you can also just, Google. I mean, Google's really great. You can just be like, pitch competitions for environmental companies, pitch competitions for sustainable companies, and you can just kind of get on those lists, and they're usually cyclical. So if a pitch competition happens once, it's going to happen again. And that's a great reason to get in with those networks I was talking about, because if you're in the networks, they're going to share with you. They're going to share all the opportunities with you. Like we were in the ION Smart and Resilient Cities Accelerator that ended in June, and they still send us like, hey, we just heard about this crazy opportunity. Here you go. Like, are you interested? Like once a week, they'll send us new things. So that's why it's really important to get your network growing and not be afraid to put yourself in there. You can just go in as someone who doesn't know anything about it. Like I've gone to events like this and just been like, and people have been like, I just want to help save the world and I don't know how, but I just want to come and learn from people, and that's totally fine. And and there are all sorts of opportunities because there's a million challenges that we need to solve. Is the studio open now?
That's for me, I think.
Does that mean Idea Studio? Yeah,
Yeah.
good question, Jordan.
So we are not open right now, but I can tell you that we are actively working with the administration to find a safe way to bring students back into the space. There are a lot of that we have a good design, for the types of things that we need to do in terms of being able to social distance and have lots of, large ceilings and the ability to, and PPE was something we were very familiar with before it became a buzzword. And so we're working on it. That's all I can say about that. So we are open for our PPE production, but that's it right now. The regular business, we're not. But we will be as soon as we can.
Yeah. Similarly to Jordan, like the Houston Public Library also has maker spaces that you can take advantage of if you can't make it all the way out to the West Houston Institute. It is literally on the opposite side of the city from me, so I definitely sympathize. But then people say that we, because we're way down where we are like in the equivalent of Mexico. So, we live in a very big city. But the point is that there's maker spaces everywhere. And a lot of them are close to the public right now, but that doesn't mean that they're not providing online enhancement opportunities.
Yep.
You can learn a whole lot.
Good point. So we are actually, I will put a link in the chat. So this semester, to kind of keep your interest and engagement and also to develop skills, we are offering a set of courses called Design for Making. And so if you have 3D printed, but you have not designed your own original 3D model, you can learn how to do that. If you're interested in laser cutting or desktop cutting, vinyl cutting, making your own t-shirts and those kinds of designs, we have a graphic design course. For students that already know a little bit about 3D modeling and are ready to level up, we're offering courses in Fusion 360 and Autodesk AutoCAD. And so these are all short courses, what we call online anytime, meaning that they're flexible with your schedule. Thank you, Gary, for just posting the link for me. And let me post it to everybody. Let's see. Awesome. So Design for Making. So we're in the middle of our second session. We have one more session that will be starting in about a week and a half. So not next Monday, but the following Monday. So get your design skills in, and then you'll be ready to go when we open back up.
Yeah. Any other questions?
What is your favorite project so far? I think that's for you.
Oh, mine? Okay. Yeah. Ooh. Okay. So, my favorite project so far. All right. So my background is in the arts, in the performing arts, in stagecraft. And we work with this artist who's based in Houston. His name is John Calloway. JohnCalloway.com. Yeah, there we go. Sorry, I sent that to just a Jeff. Let's try that again. And he makes large outdoor sculptures. And he was really annoyed with bronze casting and how much time it took and how messy it was and how annoying it was and how you couldn't necessarily get the shapes that you wanted. So he came to Re3D and he was like, listen, I want to make giant sculptures and I want to try this 3D printing thing out. So we're like, totally, we'll help you out. So John was like, cool, your printer is cool, but it's not big enough. So make me a bigger one. So then John was like, make me a bigger one. So we came up with this like 1 meter cube printer that is now called the Terabot, which people can buy for John so that he could make giant sculptures. And you can see on his website some of the, like a time lapse of him assembling all these 3D printed pieces. So he designs completely in virtual reality, just like with an Oculus Rift and this program. And so he sculpts in VR, and then he slices it up into the size that will fit on our printer, because his biggest sculpture, I think, is like 15 feet by 10 feet by 9 feet, something like that. And then assembles, like, CADs in holes so that it can be assembled with steel rods. And then he comes up with these just like insanely amazing sculptures. And so it's not technically one project, but we print for him all the time because we have this interesting partnership where his printers that he has purchased live at our factory, and we maintain the printers and we print for him, and then he comes and he picks up the pieces when he's ready to pick them up. And he does some just like crazy cool work. And one of the most recent thing that I think he's worked on was like taking meteorites, like 3D scans of tiny little meteorites that were found in Africa, and then like blowing them up super huge, and then like putting the meteorites together and creating this like weird molecular structure meteorite sculpture. Anyway, it's got that. I probably shouldn't say that, but yeah, it's cool.
That's super cool.
I
don't know if it's a question.
Any other questions? Okay, if you don't have a question, but you have an idea for a social enterprise, since we're all here and we have 3 more minutes, like shout it out, like put it out there. And it's a whole group of people that are all kind of interested in this topic. So you might, if you just like say your idea, you might find people who are like, I love that. Let's talk. Okay, ready? Go. Don't be shy.
Flux capacitor.
Yes. You know what? My favorite, like, I think one of the things, like, when I was a kid, because I'm an old person, sorry, when I was a kid and I watched, like, Back to the Future 2 and he like, put the banana peels in the engine, I was just like, that would be amazing. Like, let's use trash to, like, completely change the future and use it.
Wow, beginning of it all.
That would be amazing. Sorry, you're getting a little bit of my nerd, and there's, like, Mr. Fusion. Yes, exactly. I grew up on a very steady diet of Star Trek and Star Wars, so I'm kind of like inclined in that direction. But yeah, very cool. Okay, what do we got? Robot teachers. Okay, what do you don't like human teachers? Okay, portable buildings.
Portable buildings.
I was the best captain.
I
don't know. I think Israel's trying to fight me at this point. Okay, let's see. Designs that help those with disabilities function more in society. Fantastic idea, Normaji.
And a great point. Before we got to that is, I just lost it. Ariba says it's so interesting that innovation doesn't involve only STEM majors. Humanities and related careers are also vital in the design process. And that's something that we built in on Project Homeworld. It's not just about like business ideas and that kind of thing. So you can have a community or a civic initiative, public art and cultural work, scientific research and design. Like if you're going to fix society, you've got to have everybody, all hands on deck, right?
Absolutely. Agreed. Limbs for animals. I love that.
Yes, April, I want a 3D printer that will print your pralines too. We can just put your recipe in and we will just 3D print pralines all day long.
Does April make amazing pralines? Because I would also like someone to come up with a way for the pralines to come into my mouth right now. That sounds fantastic.
Absolutely. Limbs for animals. I've seen a few projects with that, and also not just prosthetics, but little machines to help them walk, like especially like tripod dogs.
Mm-hmm. Yes, great stuff. But not the Boston Dynamics like robot dogs, because those are terrifying
That's
and
the dark side of the future.
terrifying. And they have those like robots that can now open doors. And all I think about is like the raptors opening the doors in
Not just
Jurassic
opening
Park.
doors, but its face opens the door. Its face becomes a claw hand that opens the door.
There
That's
are
just
limits to the
that's just
imagination.
wrong. I feel like that's trolling.
Yeah.
Um,
Ooh, collapsible bicycles you can put in your bag. Awesome idea. That's
that would be
really
super.
great because I've only seen them get like this small, right? That's still pretty big.
Yeah.
Shells for turtles who have had their shells damaged. Oh my gosh, Norma Jean, you have such great ideas. These are awesome. That's such a great idea. I saw a turtle that had been like partially run over, and I didn't know how to help that poor little beast. And yeah, being able to like print a new shell like based on their old shell would just be
It's
fantastic.
like the $5 million turtle. We will make you stronger, faster.
Yeah, and maybe a ninja.
We have the technology.
Yes.
Indeed.
Some type of drone that goes around and picks up trash, especially right now, because I've been very reticent to pick up trash right now when I'm out. Normally, when I'm on a walk, I'll just grab stuff. And right now,
Yeah.
there's a
And I
simple
see
fix
a
for
lot
that.
of masks, a lot of discarded masks just kind of in parking lots and on your walks and stuff. And you're like, I want to clean that up, but at the same time, I don't. Yeah, which is
Such a
cool.
good idea. They actually have them. They're like
Oh.
Norway or Switzerland. Yeah.
See, yeah, I mean, if you're really interested in all of this stuff, like the US is a little bit behind the times. Like we had this fantastic meeting with a representative from Intel a few weeks back, and he was asking us about, you know, capturing the heat that was put off by our printers and using the heat energy
Oh,
to
wow.
power our factories because that's what they do in Singapore. And I
Yeah.
was just like, you're blowing my mind. Like, the rest of the world is unfortunately light years ahead of us as far as sustainable,
Really are.
very
All of it.
sustainable initiatives. And that's why I really push like getting involved with the more global initiatives because they can really give you some great insight.
That's a good point too. Just because somebody else is doing it, you don't have to check the box and say, well, let me come up with something else. That's a potential collaborator and partner, right? Because most of these problems are too big and too complex that there's not one organization. You didn't hear Charlotte saying, well, we're going to stop those big 3D printer makers. It's only us. We will dominate the world.
Yeah,
You know?
I mean, if I were at the office, I would be sitting in front of our world domination map. But like, it's really like just because it's kind of cool to have a giant map on your wall with like pins of all your printers that are all over the world. But really, what we want to encourage is more innovation in this space
Yeah.
because we really think this technology is going to change how we build and how we think, and we want you to have an impact on that.
Yeah. All right, a few more good ideas, and well, we are at past 3. This is becoming a Project Homeworld like trend that we do not we go over time and we keep everybody too. So hopefully that's because this is not it's not very interesting, but you feel socially obligated to stay. I don't think so, because I've seen plenty of people drop in and out on meetings. So I'm going to say that we have the coolest guests who bring the coolest stuff to you. And you guys can learn from it. Today, I think everybody will agree this was absolutely outstanding. Not because we didn't just learn about Re3D, we actually learned like how to do what Re3D did, and that's the whole spirit of openness, around that kind of social enterprise and social organizations is that that you share what you have because that you've got plenty, and there's plenty of stuff, and it's a potential collaborator, a potential partner, somebody that will bring new ideas to the table. So thank you so much, Charlotte. for bringing this for you. Those of you who are my Ideas Academy students, hopefully you saw this is a real person with working in a real business saying many of the same things I've said to you. So hopefully, this is for real. This is for real, y'all. Definitely.
He's not just pretending. He's not just working in a vacuum. Like, his ideas are the ideas that we're trying to make happen in real life every day. And I couldn't be more grateful to be able to have the opportunity to share this with the people that you're inspiring every day, Jordan. So thank you for putting this together.
Yeah. So thank you guys so much for participating in this. We've got one more week. Next week, we have 2 presenters. Let me see if I can share my screen again just real quick with you. So on Tuesday, I think I just have for Tuesday. So on Tuesday, we have Jeff Reichman, and Jeff is the principal and also the founder of January Advisors, and they are a data company, much like Charlotte and Read3D. They also do a lot of social types of things for the city and beyond. And then on Thursday, we are looking at fashion and circular fashion. And we'll have another talk on that with Jessica McMahon. And so please join us next week.